The film is about identity, and it's about the relationship between how we're perceived and who we really are. And that is compounded for my characters by the fact that they are people of color. And how do you, as a person of color, get on in a world where your identity is sort of chosen for you by the culture? And none of those things may have anything to do with who you really are.
I find that perspective incredibly interesting to play with as an actor. When I first read the script, my girlfriend was in the house at the time, and she says all the time, she was in there cooking, and she heard me slam the script down and go, I have to do this.
I just thought that it marked the emergence of a really exciting new voice. And I thought that all of the characters were so nuanced and layered and funny and tragic. And who is Justin Simien is kind of how I felt.
Ensembles are tough. You can get lost in the fold. How he handled all the characters in such a smooth way was really impressive.
I appreciate him so much for giving us that space and trusting us, really, because he has to trust that we won't mess up his baby.
I always saw it as this multi-protagonist story, and I think partly it was because I just couldn't sort of sit down and talk about something so dense and multi-layered as like race identity or identity at all from one person's point of view.
Justin just has a very specific voice. He, listens, and I think is then able to really sort of articulate what he's heard in the culture and in conversation.
When we talked about what it meant to be 2%, which was the original title of the script, I felt that way, being, a very small minority of the Asian population within my high school. So very much resonated closely with me and what it meant to be, a different face and frankly, a very white place.
This script went through a lot of people's hands and a lot of folks went, oh, it's cool, interesting idea. And myself, Ann Lee, and Angel Lopez didn't let it just slip through our fingers.
It was about, I guess, 3 years ago, that he stepped up and said, I have this version of it I think could work. Let's have a table reading. So we had this big, amazing table reading.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a read-through. This is not like a performance situation. It's just to sort of like get the story out there for everyone to hear it aloud.
We sit together to protect ourselves. Over a century of houses grouped by sports affiliations, political leanings, majors, you name it. Black folks get their own house suddenly without a problem.
We just invited actors, and it turned into this huge discussion afterwards, not about the script, but about what the script was about.
I knew that, there was no one in Hollywood really checking for the next great, multi-protagonist rumination on Black identity. So I knew we had to sort of go around the gatekeepers a bit. And I also knew that because it was this rather dense screenplay, like I had to sort of put forth a vision for the story. Like, what did it look like? What kind of movie did it feel like? What was the tone? So the next possible step for me was to make a concept trailer. And I took my tax return and did this sort of what if it was a movie trailer.
Forget Hollywood and forget Tyler Perry.
I want my $15 back for Red Tails too.
Justin basically said, we're gonna put all the things that we would put into a trailer if the movie had been made.
What was funny about, putting the trailer together is that when we launched it and when it went viral, everyone thought that this was a movie that was already coming out.
Oh! Exactly. How can I see the whole thing? And we were like, we haven't made it yet.
I wanted people to sort of be on the edge of their seats waiting for the coming soon title card and to be kind of devastated when they didn't get it. And instead of getting coming soon, they got, would you like more movies like this? Great, so would I, but it's not gonna happen if you don't help us out here.
It was always our intention, to put out this trailer and then build this surround for it, which included, Justin starting very early on this Twitter account called @DearWhitePeople.
I thought it'd be cool to start a Twitter account. And, if anyone dared to look at the profile at that time, in 2009, 2010, I believe it was, you would see Sam White as the name of the person behind the account. And I would just sort of tweet throughout the day things that occurred to me, but sort of with her mind and her style of voice. And just tried to sort of figure out what her sense of humor was. And I also got a lot of information about what people thought was funny, what people thought was offensive, and all of that really kind of went right into the screenplay. The lines that got the most retweets are the Dear White Peoples that she uses on her radio show, and the lines that drew the most ire and the most controversy. Some of those responses I also plugged right into the film. The big question, what if there was a Dear Black People? that's something that I got pretty early on in Twitter, and I thought it was an interesting question to answer.
And it just, blew up. Justin was literally on CNN 2 days later.
How do you feel? You just left CNN.
I'm delirious, girl, for real. That was nutballs. I have no idea what I said. I don't know who I said it to. Carol Castillo, she was very, very nice. She called me before to be like, I'm going to ask you about Tyler Perry. And I was like, okay. I think it went well. I think it went good. According to people, it went well. But I really don't remember. I blacked out for 4 minutes and then woke up in CNN headquarters. So I hope it worked out.
All right.
I got involved with Dear White People because my daughter, who is biracial, saw the trailer that Justin and crew put together and just loved it.
Stephanie Allain Bray is our executive producer. Also, we sort of lovingly call her like a fairy godmother of the movie, in that she's someone with a lot of clout in the business and is very well known in terms of making movies like Boys in the Hood and Hustle and Flow and Black Snake Moan.
So I sat down, I read the script, and I thought, it is hot, and I need to call this guy Justin. So I called him up, we had a conversation, and I've spent a lot of time with first-time directors over the course of my career, so he just thought I should help. Could I help? And I remember really succinctly telling him that, oh yes, I wanted to help, but I also wanted to be part of the team, because this was the kind of movie that I just knew could get there, could be a conversation starter.
We had a viral trailer, we had studios interested in the project. We went into these meetings one after the other and had these very enthusiastic responses, sometimes negotiating for months on end, but it would always kind of fall apart. And, particularly when you're doing a story that's sort of outside the mainstream, particularly with characters of color, there's just no models for there were no financial models for what we were doing. And so, it was about 1.5 years of letdown after letdown.
We did the dance in Hollywood and, almost had a deal here, almost had a deal there. I could hear that panic. I could hear that, just that crestfallen disappointment when you feel like you have something and then it's taken away. And I remember telling those guys, it's this or something better. It's all good. Like, this is just the beginning. Get used to it.
We had a friend named Duly Lebedev who, had a company, and we had been talking to her about the project, and she had financed a few movies through her company, Code Red, and I remember her saying, why don't you send me all this stuff on Dear White People again? I want to take a look at it.
At that point, it was already almost a little too late. They were talking to some big studios, and I'm sort of a small independent financier. And so I kind of had to lure them back a little bit.
It was the day before I signed that deal that I got a call from Julia saying, hey, you know what? I think we want to take a chance on this film.
Thankfully, we were friends, so I had, their phone numbers and I could call them.
We were about to sign with really well-meaning people, but it wouldn't have come out as great, I don't think.
Maybe that could help. Here we go.
Everybody clear on what they're doing? All right, we're about to do it. It's the first shot of the movie. Yeah. My feeling on the first day of set, was like, God, I've really got a lot to prove here. This is something that, has been bubbling in my subconscious and in my conscious for 8 years now.
The first stuff we were shooting he has sort of these living brochure moments in the beginning, and, we were doing sort of the business school shot, and it was this big, broad shot of this amazing staircase and leading up to this building.
I was a wreck, There was never a jumping for joy. I'm like, woohoo, I get to make this movie, There was no celebrating on the first day of set. It was a lot of sweating. But I remember when everyone saw that first shot, there was a sense of relief, like, okay, I think he might know what he's doing. Cut, brilliant, great.
Cut, got it.
I think it was sort of proof that, he knows what he's doing. He's gifted.
Cut, reset.
He's amazing, and everybody should back up, give him the ball, and watch him play. The way he frames a shot, the way he fills up the space, the way he places actors, the way he directs actors is very special.
Justin's just really smart. He's always one of the smartest guys in the room, and he's so chill and zen.
And action?
Why are the only black movies Hollywood wants to make are ones with mammies and fat suits?
Are black women in pain, man?
So basically, we got black people dying in the past and black people dying in the present.
With any first-time writer-director, I think actors are a little suspicious. Just simply because, it's their baby and they want to do it right. But working with Justin was really interesting because when I first sit down, he asked me how I viewed Lionel, which, considering the fact that he wrote this and he lived with this for so long, I expect him just to tell me what he thought about it. He asked me how I viewed him, and we found a middle ground and a collaboration in building Lionel.
It was really amazing to watch him work and speak to us in a way that we can respond to, and asking the questions and allowing us to create and bring what it was that we wanted to bring to the role.
He lets his actors be natural and do their thing, but he also sort of composes their stature and the way they're positioned so carefully that it really does feel like a piece of art.
As much as the movie has its thematic elements that are really strong, it's a film. And I think Justin really relishes being able to show an audience, this is a movie, you're watching a movie, which means that he just loves composition. And there's one scene in particular when Sam is in class and she's sort of going through something emotional, and I could just tell that the frame was really grand. And at one point I sort of was doing this and Justin goes, I love that, just stay like that.
I love that, please keep doing that. Are you doing that on purpose, Sam? And action.
Yeah, every shot when we were shooting had like a reference to a director that he has admired from the past. And to me, that just shows that he's not only done his homework, but is really specific about the choices that he likes to make.
I think the thing that makes Justin special as a storyteller is that he is not only influenced by Black culture, he is influenced by many things. He's not just influenced by Spike Lee, but he's also a fan of Spike Jonze. Stanley Kubrick is one of his favorite directors. He would have his iPad with him, and there would be a frame of an old 1920s black and white movie that he was sort of paying homage to. He would literally place the actors in a very specific way so they would match up with certain films from the past that no one probably would even be aware of.
Sometimes on set, Justin's in his head, he knows what it is that he wants to see, and he'll put you in a very seemingly odd position. My mind goes back to the bedroom scene between Troy and Coco, and you see both of our facial silhouettes in the camera. But filming that, we're laying on sandbags and our necks are very weirdly contorted. And we're like, Justin, what is happening right now? And we had to trust him.
That was a scene that I was on set watching, and he was really meticulous about like, now an inch you, and then until it was exactly perfect.
The end result was absolutely beautiful.
Every shot is so beautiful you could like hang it up on your wall, which I don't think you could say about all movies.
I think it's gonna be fun to see what that journey looks like for Justin Simien and his future work.
Action on Martin.
Looks like we've got a winner. Sam White.
Oh, shit.
Good.
Most storytellers have a lot of opinions that they really believe they're right on. Justin's one of the few who will have all of his opinions and then play devil's advocate against his own opinions in his work.
He's managed to take all the things that we say in private to each other and just put it all out there on the table for everybody to see.
The movie doesn't want to answer questions because it doesn't proclaim to know the answer to any of them. It just wants to ask a bunch of them.
I read the title, I was like, okay, this could be like an open letter, until I started reading the other side of the coin.
I love movies that deal with complicated issues and hold a mirror up, but don't pretend to have the answers, because if we had the answers to race relations in America, there'd be no need for this movie.
I had a really interesting conversation with Justin after I saw the film. After we sort of had this talk, he said, these are the kind of conversations I want to happen in the lobby of movie theaters all over the country. And it was that I thought I was Sam. I felt very, connected to her. I related to her. I got her plight and her story. But then as I watched it, I was like, oh, crap, I'm Troy. Like, I'm a Troy. Like, I'm him. Like, I make folks feel comfortable. I tap dance.
What these four characters can do for someone is to hold a mirror up to themselves and for them to say, oh, maybe this isn't so far from who I am, and maybe I should investigate where that impulse comes from.
That was the goal, is to make a movie that, keeps you in the movie theater for 4 hours, not 2, because you spent 2 hours in the lobby talking about the film.
I've been stopped on the street by people that want to ask me questions or engage in dialogue, and that has been completely unique to this project. I've never been involved in something that that frankly put me into conversations with as many strangers about things that are personal.
I mean, one of the cool things about the film is people who didn't look anything like the characters, weren't in the same age group, you know, having a very personal experience with the characters.
At Sundance, I just remember I was with Tessa, a white woman in probably her late 40s, early 50s, comes running up to her like she was Taylor Swift and was like, "Oh my God, you're Sam White from Dear White People. I just saw your movie. I'm a Sam White." And she starts talking about her experience of sort of being really passionate and having having a voice about something, but it wasn't really about race, but just sort of how her passion can get her into trouble.
After our LA screening of Dear White People at the LA Film Festival, I get a message from, this kid, Nick Smith. And he's like, "Hey, I was really inspired by your film. I went home and I painted this painting." And I looked at it and I was like, this is the most amazing, like perfectly quintessential image for my film like I've ever seen.
Saw the film, loved it, just blown away by how amazing the film was. The next day, my friend Jamila told me, you should do some artwork for it. I started to sketch out some ideas, but the thing that kept in my mind from the film, just like etched in my mind, was kind of that gravitational pull moment when Lionel's hair was being treated like a petting zoo.
And it perfectly sums up, I guess the dilemma of the kids in the film without really even saying anything. I couldn't say that I was even looking for it. I didn't even know I needed that until I saw it.
It's almost like Dear White People becomes this hashtag, this thing that encompasses an experience. So I've been out socially and something will happen and people go, "Dear White People."
Have I had any Dear White People experiences? Because I have dreadlocks, that tends to be a thing that white people enjoy, sort of like touching the hair, which is always a unique conversation.
Tessa's actually a part of the story, but we were actually on a press junket for Dear White People.
This journalist was asking us questions about our characters, but it was very clear in the language he was asking, and he proclaimed to see the movie, but it was very clear in the language he was asking us that he had confused us.
And we were like, uh-oh, wait a minute. And then we gave him a second to kind of figure it out.
And then in the same breath, like right after he asked these questions, he then asked us, "But this kind of stuff doesn't happen. Like the kind of stuff in the movie doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen in Hollywood, right?"
And we're kind of grabbing each other like, yep, this is exactly why this movie needs to be made.
I remember also an occasion where, because I'm a tall black man, and I had some friends, try to bring me into a game of basketball and were just crestfallen when they saw my complete and utter lack of dribbling ability. Sorry if you're watching.
I actually had a really outrageous Dear White People moment recently. We went into a higher-end store and realized that we were being followed by security, and then we played with them a little bit because no matter where we stood, they would turn and make sure they could always see us. So I said, "How about we split up?" So we all split up and went different directions, and I literally watched security panic. And yeah, it's perfect. It's really like, this is why I did this movie. Dear White People, we're not all coming to steal your shit.
I wanted to see reflections of my community and who I am on the screen, and with truth and depth and nuance. So I'm just so grateful to have been a part of this that I still have to pinch myself.
It's made me want to be a bigger part of the world, because there's a lot out there to talk about.
I'm already feeling people coming up to me saying, "Thank you for this movie. Like, this movie spoke to me on so many different levels."
I'm so proud of Justin, and I'm so proud of our team that we created something beautiful, but that also feels very important and relevant.
My production team from Jump we were like a Benetton ad, There's, black guy, 2 black women, 3 black women, actually, Asian woman, Latino guy. That was really cool because it was all of these different cultures coming together to tell this story from a black point of view, but a story about all of us. It's an experience that I'll never forget.